Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Beyond the Surface, the Psoriasis podcast. I'm Sophia Lowe. I'm honored to be your host today. Having psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis can sometimes feel a little bit isolating, but it doesn't have to be that way. That is why we are sharing 3 case studies in this segment to help other patients to realize that they do not have to experience the condition alone. Thank you, Katrina, Kendrick, and Alvin to be with us today. Very happy to have you all, in this episode. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Okay, so how long have you been going through psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis?
I've been having this disease for almost close to 18 years right now, and it started with my skin on my eyes, right, and then slowly developed onto my thigh. So how it works was when I first having this, right, knowing Malaysian or Chinese culture, my mom or even my friend teased me, say, "Hey, you were spying someone's taking a bath or something." So then slowly when it develops into my thigh, that's where I start to go to visit some dermatologists, and that's when he diagnosed me with psoriasis. Just psoriasis at that time, no PSA. Then I start to do more research because at the time of diagnosis, when I was that young, 20 years old, I didn't know what it is. The full weight of this diagnosis haven't really sink in yet. So it only sink in when I started to research, find out, as you know, internet pictures, they tend to show the worst case scenario, all the scary pictures and all that, and all the medication that comes with the bad side effects. So that's where I start to really panic, and my journey into this psoriasis rabbit hole goes to. So that's my initial journey for psoriasis.
So you were saying that the first diagnosis was made accurately. Is it true?
Yes.
All right. That is really great, because when we talk about 20 years ago, a lot of instances that people often get misdiagnosed, or even early detection was not made accurately, right? But in your case, I believe it was done really accurately, right? That's something that to be happy about. How about you, Katrina?
My journey, I just realized we're probably about the similar age, right? Because I've been having psoriasis for more than 20 years now. It started when I was 18 with a patch on the thigh. I think I got a cut when I went to the beach one day, right? And that cut never fully healed. And from there, it was like the size of a 50-cent coin. So I went to see a GP and all, they give you creams, but it didn't really work. And then as time goes by, it kind of like got larger and started spreading. So then my mom brought me to the dermatologist. They took a biopsy, and then that's when they said psoriasis. So for like 18 years of my life, I never heard of this word. And suddenly like, you have this for life. It's quite devastating.
Because I believe, like, if let's say I'm born with this condition, that's a different thing. But midway you are getting diagnosed with something that you never heard of, with something like, like you said, very, very well said, like devastating, emotion, things like that. I also read one of the article, Katrina, saying that whenever you get into the swimming pool, like you get a situation where people wouldn't want to be part of that.
So you read my story. I think this memory really made an impact in my teenage, young adult life, right? Because back then, it's public swimming pools and I enjoyed doing swimming, but with psoriasis all around the legs and the hands, right? When you want to go into the pool, then you actually see people coming out because they think that it's spreadable, it's screw-up or something like that. So after that, I stopped going public swimming.
I think that's really sad to know that people don't really invite us to be part of that social settings, right? How about you, Kendrick? Perhaps you can share a little bit about how it started, just like Kendrick. Just like Alvin and also Katrina.
So I have psoriatic arthritis for about 10 years now, right? So when I first started having psoriasis, it started from my scalp. So I guess I wrongly diagnosed myself as just dandruff, right? So I thought it was just a normal dandruff, and I was using all those like medical shampoos to just get the dandruff off. And no matter how much methods I use, like shaving bald, using dandruff shampoos, the dandruff never get away. And then patches started coming out in my shin, on my arms, and I went to a dermatologist and they told me it was psoriasis. Yeah. So at that time, it was just creams and just normal creams, no oral medications whatsoever. 8 months down the road, one day I woke up, I couldn't walk at all. And I thought it was just a normal arthritis attack. But eventually, after the attack didn't go away, right? I went to see a specialist, and the doctor told me that it was psoriatic arthritis.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's pretty frustrating when I heard the news. Very devastated.
Okay, so I think most of us actually experience the same thing, because when we talk about seeing lesion, normally it will appear on the scalp and then followed by the elbows, right? How about you, Alvin? Where did you spotted that particular lesion first?
My eyelids.
Okay, yes.
My
you mentioned
eyelids.
that.
Then after that, my thigh.
Okay.
My thigh, it's like what Patrina said, right? It's like it started with a 50 cent, then slowly it becomes like 1 ringgit, 50 ringgit, and then
The whole world map.
yeah. So that's why the doctor really like diagnosed very well, because I have a few segments of scaly lesions. So I think it's easier for him also to find out. Yeah.
Right. Okay, probably this question to Patrina. Describe your experience in particularly, how do you get, or probably your frustration in getting the treatment?
Well, for me, I've always gone through the private path, right? So accurately diagnosed. But after that, it's just telling you, this is for life, this is what you need to do, all the 10 creams that you need to do, the steps every day, and that's it, right? So frustration is really, can anybody actually go through the same routine every day, right? All the steps for the rest of your life. It's easier said than done. I mean, we have days that, I really can't spend an hour just to apply everything all over the body, right? And then you need to top up your medication and get along with life. So it's really, not everybody can do it, unless they're in our shoes, right?
I agree with Patrina, right? Because for me, I can do it like maybe 1 week straight, right? But after 1 week, spending 1 hour to just like put all the creams and all over the body, and it just takes a lot of time, and eventually you just
don't care.
Okay, it's not really don't care, right? But then you just like put lesser.
I think we are resilient people. I've done it 1 week, 1 year, 10 years, but really, it's so testing to do it for 20 years.
And oftentimes you don't really see the result when you diligently put it, right? So it actually demotivates you as to continue this journey. You just start doing your own method already.
So unless with one simple application it just disappear like that, then it's a different story. But you are keep on doing it like last 20, 30 years, that caused a lot of frustration in life. But we have no choice at this point in time. We have to live with it, correct? Right. Okay, so probably Kendrick, this question is for you. Describe the painful experiences or struggle that you have encountered because of your condition and due to lack of understanding regarding of your condition.
This is quite deep. Okay, so when I was younger, I used to be really active in doing sports. So I do like football, basketball, even sometimes badminton. Swimming was part of my routine. Right. So it's just a lot of like sports, and when I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, it impacted me a lot because first of all, it was the cruciating pain that I feel, and that pain never stops. It continues going, from one day to another. You're just hoping that you take like medications, painkillers, and then the thing will magically disappear, right? But it didn't disappear at all. So for me, after certain numbers of months, I was eventually bedridden because I didn't get access to biologics. It was just like oral medications and whatnot. And I was bedridden for about 1 month plus, and at that time, for me it was really the downside of my life. Like being able to or needing to like disturb other people just for help. I was just graduated. I graduated, started working starting up the working journey, and being a young chap, you sort of like want to conquer the world, want to rule the world, right? And then this type of thing happen to you, you sort of like get demotivated. You sort of like feel hopeless, and at that point of time when I was bedridden, that was actually what I felt, like hopeless and everything. I still need to trouble my parents. Like back in the days when my parents were my age, like they were most probably fending for themselves. But now I still need to like rely on them. Not only that, like even also friends, like like having lesions on your skin, it sort of make you feel that that you don't want to go out to meet your friends, because they might think of you like in a certain manner whereby, oh, maybe this guy is not taking proper shower because the skin is like kind of like red and dirty, right? And things like that. So it was really painful for me, having to go through not being able to do sports, not being able to meet people socially, having a social life, everything just throw away.
Can I on to Kendrick's point, whereby I have similar thing experience also, but just that I wasn't bedridden, but there was a point until where I have to sleep standing. What I mean is that the inflammation was so bad that I cannot sleep like normal people. So I only have to literally sleep standing for like a couple of nights. Then only I have no choice. I have to take painkillers for me to get sleep because of inflammation. So I totally can relate to your experience where it totally changed your life upside down, 180 degrees. And then also you have to change your social life. I used to play badminton, sports, football, and now I cannot, because if you look at my neck, can't really tilt up, so I can't really hit the ball properly, right? Football hopefully still okay, right? But just that my social life have to turn over, because like I have it quite early also, 20 years old, where you are young, you feel like you can take over. My prime, you by right should be your most handsome stage in life.
Yeah, still handsome.
But this happened, so you have flaky hair, your face start having red spots, so you lose all your confidence during your peak of life.
You see, we keep listening or hearing the word bedridden. Sometimes the viewers will be wondering, what is this got to do with bedridden? It's just a skin disease, right? So allow me to explain a little bit. Like psoriatic arthritis involving the joints can also cause us our mobility limited, right? Hence we get bedridden. So of course I'm in the same boat. I was in the same boat between with Kendrick and also Alvin. Where I was bedridden for 1 year or so because I can't even move because of the limited mobility, right? So then you have to rely on your parents or siblings. They feed you, they bathe you, and everything. So all those experiences is really, I don't know how to explain it. Like there's no words to describe the grief that we have gone through along this time, right? How about you, Patrina?
I have to be the luckiest among this lot, right? Because I don't have psoriatic arthritis until today. Therefore, I did not have to experience the amount of pain that all of you have gone through. So, and that's what motivates me to serve in PAM, right? Because seeing my friends here going through so much suffering and yet have a positive output, what more me that is able, right? So that is my calling to serve actually.
I think the confidence level also, it was built not over a night. It took us a lot of number of years and months to build this courage, kind of a virtue in us. And, coming out publicly to speak with people is not easy. Because when we talk about, the social stigma, people still have that misconception that psoriasis is contagious, and also that don't feel you are part of the society, right? So this is where I think a lot of awareness has to be done, educational from at the young age, from the school students, even to the adults, because this need to be like thought through, and awareness is not, for that one point in time, but it should be continuously happening. So I believe like all of us are actually advocating, some way or other, whether it's like micro level or even a macro level, right?
Yeah.
I do agree on starting education awareness early, even in school, right? Because my son, unfortunately, also inherited psoriasis at the age of maybe 8. So clearly remember him being teased in the school bus because he has like dark pitted nails, crumbly, right? And then people think like, oh, something wrong with you, alien, right? So very painful for him, right? Because he doesn't know what it is. So then again, for me, it's like, if everyone can be educated and normalize psoriasis, like you don't go up to a person and say, hey, you got pimple on your face, because everybody knows acne, right? So that is my aspiration that, one day psoriasis will be normalized.
Right.
People see and they acknowledge it and they don't have to fear us.
Yeah, actually for a child to endure this pain
Yeah.
and also suffering, I mean, there's no words to describe. Again, I will say the same thing, like, I don't know how you're managing, but I'm sure that you have, you're doing a good job as a mother because you yourself actually experienced this painful journey, right? So I know how you can actually educate, also motivate your son, to become like you, yeah. So Alvin, what do you do to reduce the negative impact of this condition?
I think I'm trying to adapt a half glass full kind of mentality, right? So because when I first started psoriasis, I have to really go out, wear long sleeve, long pants, typically cover up my skins. But until certain point of time, I said just, comes to a point where I just said, okay, enough is enough. I want to just live my life. So I started wearing just normal t-shirts, short pants, and because I feel that what they can do, like, all they can do is just stare. They can't really go in and say, hey, your skin ugly, what is this? Go back home and don't come out. So I just, live my life and try to be as normal as possible, even though that I might feel that I'm not normal, but just try to not to say a simple disease, but something that is with you, like just stop you from living the life that you want. Because I think in the end of the day, everyone more or less will have some kind of disease, just that we have something that is more obvious.
Right.
So people will just notice it up front, right? So I just do what I can for now. Yeah. And of course, I do just normal stretching exercises for my PSA. It might not help, but hopefully in the long run, it is still, give me more mobility rather than always relying on painkillers or any pills that might cause even more side effects, more harm than good to my body. Yeah.
So are you on biologics right now?
Yes, I'm on biologics, but unfortunately, my biologics will finish up soon.
Okay.
So I will have to adapt with not having biologics by reverting to previous medication, which is MTX. Yeah.
So are you referring, are you seeing a doctor in the public or private sector?
Public.
Okay, public
Public.
sector.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Katrina?
In terms of treatment,
Yes.
well, it's kind of maintained for now. So I don't really follow up with dermatologists on a regular basis, but I maintain my routine, whether it's moisturizer, some topical ointment and things like that, with a healthier lifestyle, right? Of eating non-processed food and a lot of nature.
Yeah. I think meditation also will help actually in some extent, right?
Yes.
Because I know that you are actually into this meditation thing.
Spirituality journey, right? It's just about being a better version of myself inside, lah. So therefore, external will not matter so much.
All right. Okay. So this question is to Kendrick. What is the best advice that you can give it to the patients who are newly diagnosed with psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis? This is to like gain the confidence in them.
Okay, so I think it's all there's let's say there's three things here, right? So one is definitely not to neglect the doctor's advice, right? If the doctor mentioned that your condition is bad, you really need to take biologics.
Listen to them, right?
Take biologics, right? I mean, yes, cost might be a problem. Cost is always a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's always ways. If you think about it hard, or if you believe that you can achieve something, you can definitely achieve.
Yeah.
So you can always find a way. There's a lot of like support out there. There's a lot of like programs out there that you can actually research on and seek for financial help. Secondly, is like the mentality, right? Like having this condition, it's very suffering. Like there's a lot of times where one will feel very helpless, hopeless, in fact. And and it's in the mentality whereby you sort of like take the positives out of it. I mean, you sort of see it in a bigger picture whereby yes, you have this condition, but there's not the end, right? There's still many things where you can like grow in, like for example help advocating one another, like what Petrina is doing, right?
All of us,
Advocating
all of us.
all of us advocating one another in getting stronger. And and thirdly, it's the diet lah. I strongly think it's the diet lah. Somehow it's the diet lah. Because sometimes when I eat like certain type of food, like
Oh, you get a trigger?
I'll do get a trigger, like seafood, like sometimes I
Can't
eat a
help it,
sotong.
isn't it?
I eat a squid, right? Oh, tasty squid. And then like the next day, like flare out already. So and then like fast foods, like processed foods lah. Like,
We loved it, right?
it's tasty, but
Pay the price for
Yeah,
Pay the
the
price
price.
tomorrow.
Not now, but later.
I want to ask you, do you do like a logbook, like experiment? Like for me, back then when I had psoriasis, I do like a logbook, like what I do today, what I eat today, where I went. Then I basically keep track of my flares. Like certain day, if I take milk or soya bean, then the next day I flare up. So I just write it in, okay, maybe this is not the right food, soy and milk is not right. So the next day I try maybe squid. Squid, okay, still maintain, then I can take squid. Crab, no, then this kind of keeping track of things. I read somewhere that it might help to certain people.
So so to answer you, it actually helped for me. So back then when I take cuttlefish, right? 1 hour later I get fever. And I get like body
quick
aches.
response,
Very quick. So like I will just sleep the whole night through. And it's really pain. So like then I know lah, okay, never take cuttlefish anymore. And then like with prawns and crabs, like for me personally, it gives me itch. So I
avoid also.
avoid.
You're very structured. So basically like a food diary, right?
Back then lah, but now don't really bother.
Now you really know your trigger.
Now you know already
Now
actually
more
what
or
to
less
eat and
I
what
But
not to
triggers
eat.
are also very personal, right? So like he said, cuttlefish is his deadly thing, right? But for me, I tried abstaining from seafood for 3 years. It didn't really improve. So I said, like, if it's my favorite food and I can't eat this myself, die, right? So I eat it. So I back to eating it.
And you deal with it later.
So it's really personalized lah, everybody. But for me, definitely processed food is something I avoid. So just eat whole food lah. Like if it's chicken, make sure it's just pure chicken. Home cooked lah.
Right. In some articles also I read like food doesn't really matter. Probably because you have that set of medications that actually suppress certain things in your digestive system or something like that. But I think we got to be mindful a little bit what are we eating, despite the science say that the food is not related to our triggers, right? So I think that's very important lah. So you were saying something, Alvin, just now?
I was saying that like yes, correct. Food might not really applies to everyone, but just that it's always a good thing where we can actually just try to eat more healthy food, like what you do. It might not help 100%, but it helps maybe half of it. Because my personal experience was that when I had a very serious flare-up, I did like a hardcore 4 to 5 months, no gluten, no caffeine, nothing. So basically my diet was every day water, fish, vegetable. Just three things, no coffee, no Milo, nothing, no roti canai, nothing. No sugar for 4 months. 4 to 5 months. Of course, it lose a lot of weight, but I noticed that my psoriasis. It would not clear, but it was scaly and red back then. Then after that, it just sort of like tapered down, like white color, pinkish, calm already. Yeah,
Right.
but of course I cannot continue because I lose a lot of weight. Yeah, but for you, if you want to lose weight,
This is the best way.
it's the best way.
That's true, I don't take
Yeah.
sugar.
Yeah, correct. I
Yeah.
agree with that also.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much, Alvin, Patrina, and Kendrick, for being here in this episode, the Beyond Surface Psoriasis podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you for having us.
Your stories will bring hope and relief to so many patients out there who are suffering from psoriasis, and we are honored that you choose to share this here in our program. Dear viewers, the 3 patient stories just shared by our guest speakers reveal the burden or challenges that patients have to endure and overcome as follows: disruption in their functioning and personal lives, unhelpful, unwelcome public reactions, reclusive and depressive tendencies, unmet treatment expectations, and expensive biologic therapy, need for counseling for patients with severe conditions. What we do need is a national psoriatic program, patient-centered, coordinated, and affordable care, which ensures the delivery of comprehensive treatment for people with psoriasis over their lifetime, as well as greater awareness and recognition of psoriasis as a serious medical condition. For more information, please reach out to Psoriasis Association of Malaysia, and you can also reach out to them via Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for joining us on this episode, Beyond the Surface, a Psoriasis podcast. And make sure don't miss the next episode, and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.